Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. We are very fortunate to have these two gentlemen and these two guests. If you're watching on YouTube, you know them by face. I don't have to tell you who they are, but for you listening on the radio, the announcers of the World Series of Poker since 2003, Norman, Chad, Lon McEachern. So fortunate and so pleased to have you to talk about the last 18 years. Lon, I know yours is 19, but we won't say anything to Norm.
No, I won't say. We've talked enough.
Talk about that first year and how it's progressed to now, because in 2003, first of all, like you both have referred to, you felt it was probably just a one-off. Maybe they'll do it another year. But it's now become this, broadcast that has to be, it's a must-see TV. And it has changed because it used to be air months after the actual final table. Greg Raymer has come on the show and had said jokingly that he had done a commercial with Chris Moneymaker, got on a plane. No one had seen the broadcast yet, even though he technically was the champion, and was talking with the guy. And he said, yeah, I won it this year. And they were like, yeah, sure, right. That kind of thing. Whereas now, obviously it's live, slight tape delay, but it's live now. And, everyone sees it. We went through the November 9, and now we're going to be moving from ESPN to CBS Sports Network, and we'll get to that. But kind of what do you feel like the progression has been from 2003 to now, Norm?
Well, I like to say that poker is incredibly resilient despite taking a lot of blows to the head. So poker on TV is also taking blows to the head, but basically because of, the loss of online poker,
sure,
and just the changing universe out there, and poker still stands strong. So again, we had the poker boom, which no one saw coming, and with viewership that you'll never get again. I mean, this is like they knew they had to hit the first year, because each of those 7 episodes keep growing in numbers. They get a 1.5, 1.8. They broke 2.0. They were getting higher than a 2.0 cable rating for the World Series, which nobody had even really watched before. So that just came out of nowhere. And then it was really strong the next few years. And then we took the big blow from Black Friday and all the loss there, and losing the online poker people who couldn't play online anymore, losing the online poker advertising, which is what fueled all the reruns, the endless reruns on ESPN. And so it's come back down to earth to a normal thing now. And so it's a little different. And so we haven't had as much of the mainstream viewership as we had in the opening years. And I still believe that, again, if we ever had online poker legal again in all 50 states, you would be seeing another poker boom with a lot more poker on television and a lot more viewership. So it's been up and down, and then kind of just stabilized as it is now. And of course, we have the live and the tape now, which different people have different opinions on what they prefer to watch. And so there's a choice there now, but one cannibalizes the other. So if people are watching it live, they're not going to watch the tape later. People want to watch the tape later, they're not going to watch it live. But there's, it's out there, and it's good that it's out there.
What about you, Lon? What do you think?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Ditto. Next question.
No, when I first got there, I was a kid in the candy store. My career was doing one-off events. I did a wakeboarding competition in the Caribbean. As much as you want to go back and do that show again, you're not going to do it. There was lots of shows. This was just another one in the grind to pay the mortgage.
Right.
So when it really started catching fire, which as Norman mentioned, you've mentioned, it wasn't until months later that we knew what we had a hit. We went into New York to do The Voice on the first show, and all the tape shows, and that's where Norman and I first worked together. We did some stand-ups again in Vegas that first year, but worked close together for those first shows. And on the way out, we knew the shows were wonderful. They're beautifully produced, as everyone knows, and the producers said, we were just hoping you wouldn't screw it up and maybe make the show a little better. And he said, but I think you did that. So that was the heaps of praise we got on the way out the door, And then months later, the shows start airing and you couldn't go anywhere with, any bar, anybody airing ESPN in those days. You saw Sammy and Chris Moneymaker. So it's been a fascinating arc to watch, and you got to wonder if the universe is telling you something about, be careful grabbing the tiger by the tail. I mean, what would have happened if, the online shutdown didn't happen?
Right.
As they're saying today about these cryptos, is like to the moon, who knows what would have happened. But so the job has changed. Everyone's trying to get back to, where it was. And as Norman mentioned, it's not going to happen, the way it's going right now. Things have to change. But we were lucky to have built that foundation where people expect now poker to be on. It's like, tennis, if you going to watch a tennis event, it's going to be on. So we've got legitimacy with poker, and people expect it to be on. They expect certain events to be on. And so that's huge strides from where we were when we began. And we keep looking for ways to make it better. I think it's a fascinating game. There are fascinating characters, and there's plenty reasons for it to be, still on a network broadcast.
When you talk about the post-production and the one-offs, when you go into the studio, that's what it was pretty much at the beginning. But then when they started doing the live streams, you guys had to be there. It really was. There was no take. Why don't we do that again? Let's take another take on that. It was scary. Right on the spot. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you guys, because both of you for years didn't have to do that for the World Series. The first couple of times when they did that, how was it for you guys?
I was scared, totally scared. I don't remember if the first one was the ESPN shows when we were rotating guests, or one I did. I went to Europe. The first time I did Europe, and they didn't even send poor Norman because it's not his type of show and like that, which he's proved them wrong about that. So that was
100%. That
was upsetting. But then we ended up doing live stuff at ESPN, and they didn't have the computer letting you know the outs. And I'm still a neophyte. And I remember telling all the pros that came in, and Antonio said, when they're ripping out the board, my mind is not tuned to poker, and what's going on and the odds and all like that. You got to help me here, and so it was very scary, and we've all found our niche now. And luckily we've got the computer programming to tell the outs, because pros are wrong as well. I mean, there's that odd card that comes out that gives you three more, four more outs, whatever like that. So we're very lucky to have that programming. But and then the style has changed, and we've added third person in the booth. So but man, every day was a sweat for me. I don't know about my partner here.
Well, I mean, I knew for Lon it was going to be a sweat. I mean, he loves doing live, but as far as the poker outs and stuff go, when I've sweated him when he's playing live poker, he's got the rank of hands chart in front of him. So if he's got the rank of hands chart in front of him when he's final tabling a circuit
looking
event,
at it like this, right?
Oh,
full house. Oh, I see.
And actually holds it up so they can't see tells on him too. So it's all like, so I knew that was going to be problematic for him, but he's adapted. It was different for me, especially the first couple times we had to do it. We still had cards down. We weren't able to show the cards, so that changed the whole telecast. Right. We're watching live poker without knowing the whole cards.
Right.
And the telecast was going to be skewed towards what's their hand range, what do they have, what's going on during the hand, and there's not a whole lot I can do there. I just nothing I can do there. So that was problematic for me in terms of figuring out what we should do. Thankfully, we got the cards up that let us change on that. It makes it much easier for 95% of the viewers. There are some people out there that still prefer cards down. What can I tell you? But most don't want cards down. But yeah, it's been an unusual transition in figuring out what to do because we're going to talk more strategy, and I'm not going to talk any strategy.
Right. And that's where, like you said, you have a third person in the booth. That's the year Antonio really shined. I mean, it really was amazing what he was doing in that, and really helping people predict the ranges and sometimes spot on. Talk a little bit about those other broadcasters. You've really had a tremendous range from, as Antonio, You've had Nick Schulman, Maria, Kara Scott, Ali, David Tuchman, of course, recently Jamie Kerstetter. Talk a little bit how that dynamic has come about for you guys.
We tell them what to do and they do it. That's all we need to do.
The rookies carry your bags to the bus and everything like that.
It's funny because they're coming into the broadcast booth and I get a sense, and not now because they're all vets of the game, but when they come in, by the time we started getting those third people in the booth, Norman and I were very well established. There was always, poker was great, and they loved what we did with poker. So they were feeling like I was feeling when I'm talking about strategy and poker and trying to call the outs. I was out of my element. They were nervous and they were feeling out of their element. And of course, it's our job, to make them at ease, because if they're at ease, they're going to bring out more information, better information. People are going to enjoy it. But everyone is different. And when we started doing the bracelet events prior to the main event, so we're doing all these other events, on another format, streaming. You get a different person every day, and you really have to adapt and kind of figure out what makes them tick, how to bring out the best moment in them. And I always wish I could work with Norman. Norman is very easy to work with. He naps probably at 65% of the time anyway. So that's, what more do you want in a partner? So
good for you. No, yeah, we've been blessed recently, both with Antonio and Jamie Kerstetter, who are just perfect for their role coming in that way. They talk to a casual person in a very easy fashion, which is the way you got to do it. I just don't think you want to be too highfalutin, too metagame, too analytical. So both Antonio and Jamie have both been, I think, pretty proficient in just talking to the casual person who doesn't play poker every day and is there to watch for other reasons. So I think I've really enjoyed having both of them in the booth with us as much as I could.
And I've learned a lot. I mean, not from our ESPN shows, those are different, as Norman mentioned, but when we get into a Poker Go stream, or I think CBS Sports Network was doing some bracelet events as well, where we discovered the final table. And you were doing some mixed games because that's, you know that better than I, but you get, Kane Callis coming in who is analytical as they make them. And then you've got a guy like Phil Locke who, enough said, right? Phil Locke. So, it really runs the gamut. And it's very interesting to get a look at who the poker world is by who we have sitting next to you. And, it's really been very rewarding and helps my job too. Helps me.
And David Tuchman does a lot of that during the series when he does the live streaming.
I don't know how he stays. I don't know how he keeps it going. I mean, the guy's, he's got a miracle throat or something like that. It's incredible.
A few years back when he had his first child, they asked me to do the subbed in for him for about a week. And like you said, that having that dynamic with somebody and getting it really quickly sometimes is challenging. Not to say it's hard, it's impossible. It's just more of, I don't know this person very well, so let's see how we can get this dynamic going. And my advice always was to them, just be yourself. Don't worry about what you have to do. We brought you in here for a reason. He's
a New Yorker, and you guys on the East Coast, I've told a lot of people is you guys know how to talk, and I think it comes from your culture, where you have winters where you have to be inside and you don't have a choice. You're forced to talk to each other. Here on the West Coast, we're out at the beach or whatever, riding a bike, and there's a lot of solo activities. I just think it's a gift of gab, and David, the best at it. I think he set the tone for live streaming commentary long before there was a tone to be set. I remember him talking about beers and what kind of beers, and like, oh, okay, we can talk about something else in poker, which I'm still trying to learn, tell you the truth.
By the way, Bernard, just a footnote on you replacing Tuck that time. He did have, that was his first child. Subsequently, the blood work showed that he was not the father, but they kept the child, and it's the kid's grown up in a great loving home.
And since then they've said, David, you can't have any other children. We can't have you. We can't have Bernard subbing in anymore. Don't do
Well,
that anymore.
you sit on a chair for 12 hours at a time talking about poker, and the sperm count just kind of goes.
No, like you said, Tux does a phenomenal job, and he has been.
Don't tell him we said that. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he won't hear. Okay. We're talking with the two faces of the WSOP for the last 2 decades. There it is, Lon McEachern and Norman Chad. Let's go backwards in time. You're talking about almost 2 decades. We'll start with you, Norm. A couple of your top moments in all of these 18 years. And let's keep the Moneymaker out, because I think that is probably, at least for many people, the top moment. If it isn't for that, we're not even having this conversation. We're not on this and we're not doing this. But beyond past the inconceivable, what are a couple other moments?
Actually, most of them came in the first 10 years just by happenstance. So a couple of years after Moneymaker, I just loved the Joe Hashem, Steve Daneman dynamic.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was great for the game, and the back and forth between the two. And again, Daneman had all his little, he didn't have range of hands, but he had a bunch of stuff that he, little monster.
10 rules, right? He had 10 rules.
Right.
Great. That was just
have
great
fun, right?
So that I remembered. I love that. My favorite final table in a weird way was the year Joe Catta won. And that's Joe Catta wasn't even the player he was now, but that was the year that brought us both Phil Ivey, my guy, to the final table. And then Darvin Moon. I mean, Darvin Moon was, we all loved the late Darvin Moon. He was like a meteor across the sky. We'll never see the likes of him again in terms of, just walked out of the woods of Maryland or West Virginia. And he was such a unique character. And I loved having him there at the final, Darvin Moon, Phil Ivey at the final table. That's some extremes. And then emotionally, Greg Merson winning in 2012. It was such a climb for him, because of whatever his personal life had been before and the demons he had to overcome. And you could see in his face, and he cried when he was winning that thing. So those are the moments that stand out for me.
I love him. Lon, how about you? A few moments for you?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. So, no, actually, being new to poker, the first, several years, it was just walking around the room and seeing what it had become. I mean, what was that? A couple of years before we did it, they reached 100 attendees or something, or entrants into the World Series, or a couple hundred. It was nothing like it was. And then to see what it blossomed into, with people barking and people wearing costumes, and Norman keeping track of how many people had cowboy hats on, and being able to tell the character just from, because they stood out. Usually the characters they weren't few, but they were far between, because there were so many people playing poker, and the odds are having two, major characters at a table were long. So they stood out at their table, whether how they dressed, how they talked, how old they were, who was on their rail. Norman was a master of finding all that out. So that was wonderful to see. And then just weird, early day moments of Madison tackling Mr. Peanut, or, the guy barking, and having, Prahlad and Jeff Lissandro fight over the ante gate, and just unique moments that, you just don't see anywhere else, which is why they're unique. And then as far as the event, I love the early days of the Penn and Teller Theater, and how it just captured all the emotion of what was going on, and the love that people had for poker. And it was in the national media. It became part of the culture. It was on TV, and with sitcoms and things like that. They were starting referring to poker, and people still using the term all in the news about what they're doing. And I really enjoyed, even after all of that bloom, and then later on we got Kui Wen amongst these hardcore poker guys and poker backers and real pros, and for Kui Wen to to find his way through. He was just such a bright light that year, the whole way through, and very appreciative of what was happening to him that year. I really felt, his emotion all the way through it. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, amazingly, that was 5 years ago. Kui winning. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So we are talking with the two faces of the World Series of Poker, Norman Chad and Lon McEachern. I agree with you. It's just there's so many incredible moments that have happened throughout the years. I've always said the World Series final table, it's the ultimate reality show, right? I mean, you basically get down to these final 9 players, you have these characters, and then they just eliminate each other. Before Survivor was Survivor, this is what it really was. Real quickly, as you were talking about that, the Penn and Teller Theater came to mind of November 9, right? Like we almost forget about that period.
We're going to have another November 9 this year.
A little bit of a break, but the November 9, what did you guys think? Did you like it? Did you, at the time, did you like it? And now do you like, what was kind of your thoughts real brief, quickly?
Go ahead, Norm.
Yeah, it worked for the purposes that they wanted to, in terms of what they needed to do with the tape shows, and they wanted to lead it up to a live thing so people didn't know the result. I was very, very, very worried about it when they announced it, from a couple of standpoints, and just what could happen in the 100 days in between. Just because I was worried about it, because you literally might have somebody who can't make it to the November 9 or pass away, and just when you have that much time and that much money involved, I was just hoping nothing ever went wrong. It played out, and I didn't like the idea of stopping an event, like stopping a game with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and then coming back a month later to play the rest of it. So all those things I didn't like, but nothing went wrong with it, and I think it did serve its purpose very, very well for what it was intended to do.
Yeah, it served its purpose, right? And I again, Norman was and is much more of an insider in the poker world, so he had all those concerns and those thoughts and those angles of thought that I didn't have as kind of a newcomer. I still felt a newcomer. Every year was so different, and still a bit of an outsider at that point, I felt. And so I didn't take that stream of thought. I thought more from the television side, and how I didn't like that people knew who won before we had November 9. So that, again, just from a broadcast standpoint, that's more where I was looking. So I enjoyed it. I thought the pomp and circumstances they gave it inside the Penn and Teller Theater was fun. I mean, you walk in and you try to do your on camera work with all these people. It is a stadium of poker, and that's really what everybody has always wanted. They tried stadium poker in Wembley Stadium. It didn't work out very well, but this really felt like stadium poker, and it was a beautiful thing for a few years, I thought. And it worked very well. As Norman mentioned, it served its purpose.
As they said, it was a Super Bowl of poker at that time. And I was one of those people when, after a while, I stopped watching because I knew who won. So I was like, well, I don't really care. I know who won. Yes, you'll see the coverage. You'll see some of the hands. But when they did the November 9, it definitely was interesting. We were covering it with ESPN Inside Deal too. So we were really focused on it. So I thought it was like you said, I love the phrase. It definitely served its purpose well. And it's good. This year it'll be a little different. We've talked a lot about ESPN, but it is now transitioning over to CBS Sports Network, and we are so pleased that not only is the broadcast transitioning over, but the two gentlemen, the commentators, the mainstays of the World Series of Poker, you guys are transitioning over as well.
Yeah, I got to get new business cards.
But how is it going to be with regards to this production? You guys have probably a lot more insight than most people. More broadcasts, correct?
For CBS Sports, we're probably on a par. I think about, I don't know, do you have a number? Is it 16 or 18 tape shows? I think, Norman, something like that.
I mean, the main event will have, I think, 15 or 16 hours of taped. And then on CBS Sports Network, we will have, I believe, like 18 or 20 bracelet events
Right. Live streamed, right?
That would have been live streamed on Poker Go. That will be cut down to 1 or 2 hour shows.
Oh, I see. Got it.
The one change that I just want to prepare people for, and I can prepare them all I want, and they're still going to, poker people, is that we've been used to watching it live on ESPN the last few years for 13 straight days. It'll be live again, but it's that live portion is not going to be on ESPN. It's not going to be on CBS Sports Network. The live portion for 13 straight days will be on Poker Go.
Poker Go.
So
Great.
all live of the main event is on Poker Go, and then all live of the 18 or 20 bracelet events on Poker Go. Final tables, complete final tables.
But the bracelet events also are going to be in a cut down format on CBS Sports later. All the live coverage on Poker Go. Is that right, Norman? The bracelet events
on Poker Go. And then CBS Sports, what we lost with ESPN the last few years is we weren't getting the re-airs of anything. They just pretty much want the live stuff and then the post-produced. They wouldn't do any re-airs. So CBS Sports Network, I believe, will be showing a lot of re-airs of the bracelet events, a lot of re-airs of the main event, hopefully to keep it out there so we can have it out there in the mainstream a little longer.
And Bernard, to be fair, it's still kind of new to us as well. And I haven't heard, Norman, have you heard the CBS Sports Access? They're not doing any live streaming as they did a few years ago that you've heard of?
Not that I know of. I don't think so.
They're an online version of CBS Sports.
So quickly as a summary, the live streams will be on Poker Go, but then after the fact, they will do post-production work and then they will air on CBS Sports Network. As you said, 16 1-hour shows for the main event, and then they'll also break down about, I think, 20 bracelet events as well.
Sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it'll be a lot of work for you guys. We'll definitely be excited to.
I'll jump in there when you say that. Yes, they will be. But there's going to be rotating crew of announcers for the bracelet events. So we're not doing all the bracelet events. I think we're working together on one, but we're split up. And then there are other people doing them when we're not doing them as well. So you'll see familiar faces.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure. Incredibly, 2021 World Series is coming back live at the Rio All Suite Hotel Casino, and it is rumored that it is the farewell for the Rio, and moving on from there. But obviously, we are so thrilled that you guys are back, even though they are moving it over to CBS Sports Network. And wish you guys all the best and have a great 2021 series, my friend.
Good to see you, Bernard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Bernard, I'm predicting your first bracelet this year, and it will come in deuce to 7, just so you know.
Wow, boy, I really, I don't want to say anything to jinx that statement. We'll just leave that out in the atmosphere, and
good idea.
Hopefully it'll happen. So, Norman, Chad, Lon McEachern, the voices of the WSOP here. We really appreciate it. We're going to be bringing you more coverage of the World Series 2021 as we get closer and closer. And as always, may you always go in with the best hand, and may you never get unlucky. Good night, everybody.